Episode 21, 79 away. We're live. Well, not really live. We're recording this on a Monday, and that's important because the playoffs have started, and we're recording this actually as the Dallas Mavericks have upset the Thunder, so we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I've got Ben Russo, I've got Matt Urich, and we're going to talk about the less exciting of the two playoffs that are happening right now, and that is the NBA playoffs on TNT and ESPN. Matt Urich, how you feeling about these NBA playoffs? There it is. And Ben Russo, your comments on the NBA playoffs?
I'll watch, but I'll watch more as they move further along because I think this first round is going to be a snooze fest. So,
what do you guys think about the idea that there's 8 teams too many in the NBA playoffs?
I think the NBA has too many teams in general.
Yes, I think that's a great place to start. I would actually love to see the NBA go to I don't know, could you go to a 17? I don't know, have something where the top 3 teams get buys, and then the 4 or 5 they're into the next, maybe the top 5. Yeah, I don't know.
I just think it's silly because there are clearly 5 teams. You know, the Warriors, the Spurs, the Thunder, the Cavs. I mean, really 4 teams that have a legit shot at winning the championship, and I think the first 3 I named are more legit than Cleveland. And it's a shame that I wish it was just you take the top 12 teams or whatever it was, throw them in there regardless of conference and let them duke it out.
Yeah, that'd be all right. Maybe your top 4 get buys.
Because, I mean, how great would it be to get a championship series between Golden State and San Antonio?
It would honestly go down as maybe the best NBA championship series ever. It would have that potential. I mean, you'd have to think so, at least, right? I mean, it just, I don't know. Does Charlotte versus, who are they playing? I don't even know who Charlotte's playing in the first round. Miami? Does Miami do it for anybody? I mean, does anybody really think those teams are going to win? And I guess that goes to the larger point is tonight we're going to talk about the 10 most important players in the
emphasis on players
in the NBA postseason, and our list comes from 5 teams. I mean that's really it, isn't it? I mean, we have a list, and that list consists of 5 teams, and those 5 teams are the teams that probably are going to win the NBA title, and that's it. So, let's just get to the list. Let's do it. Let's talk. We left off at the the list here. LaMarcus Aldridge. He did not make the list. He was an honorable mention. But he is an important cog in that San Antonio machine. But we're going to go down to number 10, and number 10 is a tie between Chris Paul and Klay Thompson. Matt, you want to talk Chris Paul?
Chris Paul, doesn't feel like Chris Paul's been around forever.
Well, he has been around forever.
Yeah, when I was making this list out, I was kind of, I was, it's one of those people where you hear the name, you throw it down, and then I realized just how long he's really been around. As I'm trying to bring up his stats here, sorry. I'm usually better prepared than this. But the thing is, I still think that Chris Paul is the biggest, probably to me, in my opinion, the biggest piece on that Clippers team, or more so the person that keeps it going, keeps it moving. I'm looking now. He's had a nice year. 19.5 points per game, 10 assists, 4 rebounds. I mean, Chris Paul is the model of consistency at the point guard position because he can score, he distributes the ball well, plays solid defense. So, but to me, I think, and we'll get to it here with our next selection, the number 9 guy, who I think's a little bit more important. But the way that Chris Paul works with a guy like Blake Griffin, and the way the offense runs, granted the Clippers did some really good things without Griffin in the lineup, but I think it makes more sense. But to me, Chris Paul is the reason that Clippers team sort of is able to move and able to score points. So that's obviously that's why he made our list. And then Klay Thompson, I feel like he's a little lower on here than I would have thought. But then when we look through the rest of these names, I guess it sort of makes sense. But Klay Thompson's that 3-point ace, the sort of forgotten ace, I guess, in a sense, with the way that Steph Curry has been shooting the ball all year round. But Klay Thompson's just one of those guys. He's tough to guard. He's a tough matchup guy just because of his size and his ability to get outside and shoot the ball. So.
Yeah, Ben, Klay Thompson, what your thoughts on him?
Yeah, my whole theme towards this revolved around our number one guy, which I think will be pretty obvious. But the reason I liked Chris Paul on the list was because I think he's obviously going to be in the position where if they meet in a series, he's the guy who's going to be guarding Mr. Steph Curry. And that's obviously going to be basically your only way to try and get in there is to try and slow down, not stop, but slow down Steph Curry if you can at all. So him guarding Steph Curry is going to be important, which then leads you to Klay Thompson, where if the other team's number one guard can somewhat control what Steph Curry can do, that's where Klay Thompson's going to have to come into play. He's going to be the guy who's sitting around the 3-point line, ready to take that dish outside, and he's going to have to shoot, and he's going to have to, hit his shots. The one game that I remember the Warriors losing of their 9 that they lost all year. Curry and Thompson combined 1 for 15 from the 3-point line. You can't really bank on that for a series, but that's how you're going to beat them is.
Well, it has to be one game of that, right? It has to be one game where, your stars do, be stars and just outplay Curry, right? That's where you get 2 of them, and then you need just some bounces.
And that's why I think Chris Paul I had relatively high, because I think anybody out west, their point guard is going to be important because they're going to be the ones who's matched up with Steph Curry, and that's going to be their responsibility to try and control him. Like I said, you're never going to stop him. You can't really stop a guy who just makes 45-foot 3-pointers without even trying. But that's the kind of thing you have to do is try and control, get a hand in his face, disrupt him any way you possibly can. And that's where I think Chris Paul, the importance of him comes in.
Right on, and I agree. I think Chris Paul. He could still be that tenacious defender. Unfortunately, I don't know if the pieces around him will be enough. And as far as Klay Thompson goes, as we're doing this, I've got Game 2 of the Warriors Rockets on. Klay's already made a 3 to start this game, and he's in the event that Steph's ankles are, as we know, he's not playing in this Game 2 tonight. And so if Klay has to pick up the slack, Klay has to be Steph for a night, and they're gonna get away with it with the Rockets here. I think even with Curry out tonight, I think this is a sweep of the Rockets. I think the Rockets are an absolute fraud of a team.
Yeah.
And so Klay, hopefully this all works out, and but Klay is gonna be important. He's gonna have to shoot the ball well. We're gonna go up to number 9 here. And we're going to talk about one of Chris Paul's teammates who they don't really seem to work well together, and that's Blake Griffin. That Clippers team played a lot better without Blake in the lineup. And I don't think Paul really likes playing with him. I don't think he really fits with what they're trying to do as a team. And you have Blake Griffin who what is he? What is he for the Clippers, and where does he come up in terms of this postseason? Ben, we'll start with you on that.
Yeah, I'm a Blake Griffin fan myself. I think obviously there's something to be said about what you're talking about as far as how the mix goes. Yeah, they clearly played better without him than with him. I still think he's a guy though that can be a force in the right series. I think a guy like him would be, I say better suited, but it's not really what I'm looking for. But in like a series against the Warriors as opposed to the Spurs, because the Warriors obviously want to get up and go. He's more athletic. He's a guy that, I'm not saying he's going to be able to outscore him himself, but he's going to be able to keep pace with them running up and down the floor rather than the Spurs who are going to control you, make you slow down, and be have to set up plays more than just kind of freewheel everything. I think he's just important because he is the big man inside. I mean, they have DeAndre Jordan on the defensive side. Offensively, that guy is something else because you can just foul him, put him at the free throw line, and watch him airball those things all day. So I think that's where the difference comes in. Is he's got to find a way to work on the offensive end, and that's the only way you're going to compete with, as far as I can see, Thunder and the Warriors. Is you have to put offense. I mean, you're going to have to score 110 points to even be in the conversation with either of those two teams. So that's where I think Griffin's importance comes in, is not necessarily the defensive side, is they have to find a way to work together and move that ball around and basically score is really what it's going to come down to. They got to get points, and I think that's where Griffin comes into play more so than DeAndre Jordan.
Matt, you want to jump in with some thoughts on Blake Griffin?
As I took a swig of water, sorry. Yeah, the thing that I like about Griffin's game, and particularly yesterday, or Sunday night, I watched a pretty good chunk of that game, and like to Ben's point, that with the Clippers, you can put DeAndre Jordan at the line, and he's going to airball him because he's terrible at it. It's sort of amazing how bad he is at it. But the thing I like about Griffin's game is when he's on and he's playing aggressive, particularly when he has the ball in his hands. I love that he likes to go to the hoop, that he's not afraid to get to the basket, to go to the rim. He went to the free throw line yesterday or Sunday 12 times. That's a huge thing. He made 9 out of 12. He should be a little bit better than that. But I think his aggressiveness pays off sometimes, but I also think that causes him to be a little too erratic too. But man, I was really impressed with him Sunday night because I thought he looked the best we've seen him in a while. Granted, he also missed 45 games this year with that suspension and with his injury and everything. But I think when Griffin's on, when he's explosive like that, when he's willing to go to the basket, he was aggressive on the defensive side too, grabbing rebounds. He had 12 rebounds in game 1. So to me, I think Griffin. It is odd that LA got, or that the Clippers got a little bit better without him in the lineup, but I still think he makes them a better team if he can play within, play a bit under control, but still be aggressive, still attack the rim, get to the line, make free throws. I mean, teams are going to win that way if you get to the line and make teams pay for fouling you. So I think if Griffin can continue to do that, the Clippers have a chance to shock some people, but it's going to be tough out there in the West.
Yeah, it'll be real tough. And, the problem I have ultimately with Blake Griffin is he doesn't shoot the 3, but he loves to shoot 20-footers. Mm-hmm. And everything the analytics has told us over the last, 5 years as analytics has become big in the NBA is that the, 16 to 20-foot jump shot is the worst shot you can take. And you look at that and you go, well, and that's what Blake Griffin does well, and that's not really what the NBA, wants you to do. That's the no man's land shot. So, I think that's the problem. He doesn't spread the floor quite enough for Chris Paul. He doesn't really fit within that team. Maybe if you have him come off the bench, instead, maybe that, I don't know. I would not be surprised to see the Clippers move on from Blake Griffin this offseason. And I think they'll have plenty of takers. And I think, you look around, like, the Bulls, for instance, I would. That's a guy that I would really go and try to get if the Clippers make available. I don't know that you have anything they want. I don't know that they want Jimmy. I don't know that they want Derek. I mean, maybe they look at Derek and they go, that he could. That's a lot of money to pay a backup point guard to Chris Paul, I suppose. But that's a guy that could be available. I really do think, and we'll see how that works out. So, but I think it's fair to say Blake and Chris are 9 and 10 on our list, and that's the end of the Clippers. And I think it's probably pretty fair to say that we would all say the Clippers are the 5th best chance to win the title. Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah. So, and it's represented list. All right, moving on. Number 8, Draymond Green. I know one coach who really loved Draymond Green. I know one executive vice president who thought that Jeff Teague was the future.
No, Marcus Teague.
I'm sorry, Marcus Teague. Wrong Teague. The bad Teague. And we're, of course, talking about Tom Thibodeau and John Paxson. And Thibodeau said, hey, get me this Draymond Green guy. And John Paxson said, no. Here's a Marcus Teague for you. And everybody in Chicago went, what's a Marcus Teague? Oh, it's a bad basketball player.
Well, to be fair, the Draymond Green stuff didn't come out until Marcus Teague was already out of the league, so it's not like that was known on draft day. So
I understand, but it's another notch against Garpak's awfulness. It really is.
We don't need any more of those.
Well, I'm going to keep giving them to you. So Draymond Green, I think you can make a case that when he is on and his defense is tight, he is the heart and soul of that Warriors team. I think it's as good as Curry is. It's Draymond that is, he's the alpha dog there. I really do believe that. He's. I don't know that this team goes for 73-9 if Draymond isn't, as intense as he is. I mean, that's who he is as a player, and he does everything well.
But they also don't go 73-9 without Steph Curry making 400 3-pointers.
That's true, but I'm talking more about, we often talk. I mean, not we, but I think you hear the collective talk about the NBA is the grind of that regular season, the night in, the night out, and just how difficult it is to get up for that. When you're the Golden State Warriors and you have a back-to-back, and the second night of that back-to-back is against, we saw it when they lost their first game of the season. They had the back-to-back, they played the grinding game in Boston, and then they go over to Milwaukee, and to just get up for that game, it's tough. And I think, yes, obviously Steph Curry is the best player, but when you're looking for that guy that, is rallying the troops and is really that, the heart and soul of the team, I really, the grindiness, the passion, the fire is Draymond Green. Matt, your thoughts on Draymond?
Yeah, I think Draymond's sort of that trendsetter or tone setter, I guess is probably the better way of saying it, for that team. He's not Steph. He's not Clay. He's not going to drop 30, 40 points on a whim some night, but he's consistent. He plays stellar defense. He could play a bit of that back to the basket sort of game. He's a tough guy underneath the rim. He could go up for rebounds, all that good stuff. He finished second this year in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. The thing that
should have been first.
Yeah, I mean, it's debatable. I mean, people will say just because of the way that Kawhi gets stuck on all of these, Kawhi Leonard gets stuck on all the top perimeter guys and has, granted, we'll talk a little more about Kawhi when we get there, but Draymond Green, solid player. It is one of those things in hindsight you look back and we heard all the stories about Thibs wanting him and yada yada yada. And the one thing about Draymond Green that I really like is the fact that at 6'7" and like 240, I don't know, let me see, 230. I mean, he's a big dude, and the fact that he's that big and he can handle going up against good wing players. We've seen him play up against LeBron and stuff in the past, and the fact that he can match up with power forwards, he can play threes, fours. We've seen him on fives. His versatility is great. So he to me, when Scott was saying you need, teams have those guys that are sort of, get you amped up, get you revved up. You need good teams have guys like that, and I think Draymond Green, in a sense, is like a, you look at what Dennis Rodman did, and granted, Rodman and Green were on a scoring level nowhere near each other, but I think you look at a guy that plays with that sort of energy and that mentality every time he's on the court, and the fact that, Green was a second-round pick and sort of that feeling of always having to prove yourself, I think that sort of parlays into his game, so he's a fun guy to watch, and I mean, this Warriors team is just so stacked from top to bottom. They're going to be a tough team to beat.
For sure, Ben, Draymond Green, and your
yeah, I think Matt kind of nailed what I was going to say. And why I think he probably should have been Defensive Player of the Year is he guards 1 through 5. That's something Kawhi Leonard can't do. I mean, he can guard your point guard, he can guard your shooting guard, he can guard your 3, your 4, your 5, and do it well. I mean, that's the thing is he can guard anybody on the court at any time. I mean, we're talking about a guy who he had that string of triple doubles. I mean, he was I think he averaged like 14, just under 10, and then like 7.5 assists from your power forward. I mean, those are unbelievable numbers. This is a guy who I think very much still, I know he made a name for himself obviously this year, but I mean, this is an underrated player. I mean, for what he brings all around, and the defensive side of the game, I think, will always be there with him. How much of the rest of it is the fact that he's got two of the best shooters in the league around him. I think that obviously helps. But again, if you want to win a championship, you need a guy like this on your team, obviously, which they already did last year. But this is a guy who will pick you up if your shooters are down, and like you said, he will bring that energy night in and night out. So
Well, and Ben, to your point about the he's got two of the best shooters around him and what have you. I mean, name me one team in the last 30 years now. Go back to 1980. Tell me one team that won with one guy. I mean, it doesn't exist, So every great
the
player.
Pistons won with no guys.
I think there's some revisionist history there. That team was really, 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 really good. Overall,
They were deep, but not necessarily the superstars.
No, maybe not the superstars, but I mean, Chauncey Billup. I mean, that was his prime. Rasheed Wallace was really, that was peak Sheed right there. That love me some Rasheed Wallace. But at any rate, I don't want to discredit I don't want to come off as though we're discrediting Draymond Green because.
Well, I'm not, but what I'm saying is, if you get an assist because you pass the ball to Steph Curry, who makes a 36.3 pointer, and you're getting that assist, are you really actually doing anything on that?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, it's a fair point, but Draymond Green, awesome. Love the guy, awesome player. We're going to do 6 and 5 together here because they're on the same team, and they are of, I think, near equal importance. We had
6 and 7, by the way.
Oh, sorry, 6 and 7. 7 is Kyrie Irving, 6 is Kevin Love, and I think they're on there for different reasons. At least for me, Kyrie Irving's on this list for me because Kyrie Irving is he going to be healthy at the end of this postseason? Are we going to get a full title run from the Cavs with Kyrie? And for Kevin Love, are we going to get more of Game 1 Kevin Love where he played really, really well, or are we going to get Kevin Love, who is not utilized properly by the Cavs, and is going to end up walking away because he can go be loved somewhere else. Matt, your thoughts on K Love?
That was terrible. Don't do those puns. Come on.
Okay.
All right. Anyways, so yeah, Love. The thing about Love is, like you said, there's just not enough going on, or there's too much going on for Love's game to really thrive. I don't think he's ever really made, sort of felt like he fits in with Irving, with Kyrie, with LeBron. He played really, really well in Game 1. Obviously, he had where are we at here? He had 28 points and 13 boards. I mean, is that what you're going to get? Are you going to? The reason Love was so high on my board was just because I want to know what you're getting. Are you getting the Kevin Love that was a dominant player at times in Minnesota, or are you getting the guy that's sort of been on the back burner since he's been in Cleveland? Mm-hmm. He averaged 16 points, nearly 10 rebounds a game this year, and while I mean that's solid, but Love was up there. I mean, granted, he was the guy when he was in Minnesota, and he was dominating, when he was the guy. And that's why he's so high on my list, because I want to know, because I feel like if you get Kevin Love playing the way that he played in Game 1, I think they have a real shot to at least contend with Golden State, because, I mean, as of right now, I think the three of us are probably all believe that it's going to be Golden State all the way. But I think if you get the performances you got out of Kevin Love and Kyrie in Game 1 on a somewhat consistent basis the rest of the playoffs, and more particularly once the finals come around, because I don't think any of us think anybody's going to knock the Cavs off in the East. But if you get those sort of performances out of them in a 7-game series against the Warriors, I think it could go 7 games, and it wouldn't be something that would surprise me if Cleveland knocked them off if you get Kevin Love playing his best basketball.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. I think Kevin Love, as weird as it sounds, is the key to the Cavs' success. Ben, what do you think about K Love and Kyrie?
Yeah, I think the problem that you run into is, I think you look at what he did in Game 1, I think that's an offense that can work against Detroit. I think that's probably an offense that can work against Miami. I don't
Or
know
Charlotte, Ben.
I don't know that that's an offense that can work against Golden State because they don't have that big man who just is there to protect the rim. If you pull, I mean, the whole reason they started to pull away there late and ended up winning was they were able to pull Drummond off the rim. By basically having Love play the 5 and Drummond had to come and guard him, which left Kyrie and LeBron, free at the net. And that's not going to work against the likes of Golden State or go back to even the Clippers. I think they would struggle against the Clippers because the Clippers have a couple of really athletic big men. I think I like Love because, like you said, I think he brings that outside shooting. If he gets hot, that having a 6'10", 6'11" guy who can shoot the 3 is a huge advantage for you. I think with Kyrie, I agree 100%. Health is a definite issue. I mean, say all we want about Derrick Rose, Kyrie Irving's got to be right there in that group of guy who's just always hurt. I think if the big 3 stay together in Cleveland, I think it should be an easy walk through the East. I think Miami will scare a little bit, but I think Cleveland should easily win the East, and these two are a big part of it. But yeah, I'll be curious offensively how things change if they have all 3 of them against Golden State, because LeBron gave it his all against the Warriors last year, but that was not a very good team that he had behind him with the injuries that they had. So I think I'd love to see a fully healthy Cavaliers team go against Golden State in the finals. So
yeah, I think that's the hope of everybody here, that we don't get cheated with Cleveland. There's always that chemistry issue. I don't know that Tyrone Lue can coach. I'll be honest.
No.
And I think it's been pretty proven over the years. Other than Spoelstra,
give Spoelstra that 3-year deal was unbelievable to me.
Yeah. So it's LeBron's team. He's making the decisions. I mean, Lue's just there to make some substitutions
Be
and
a
stuff.
rack.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that that's not what they need there. I'll be honest with you. I thought when they fired
David Blatt,
I thought Thibs would be just so scary there because the offense would take care of itself. At least that was my thought.
You'd think it would.
And then Thibs would bring in that defensive tenacity. And I know some people said, oh no, you need like a full year with Thibs. And I was just like, I don't know, man. There's so much athleticism and talent there that I think you could.
I mean, Kyrie and LeBron, was Kyrie on Team USA or no?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so I mean the two of the, and I don't know if Kevin Love was either. I honestly don't remember, but I mean at least the 2 of them worked with Tibbs when he was on with Team USA. So I mean at least your 2 biggest stars knew what to expect from him. So
yeah, they at least had an understanding of who he is as a guy. But yeah, that shocked me. I thought Thibs was like the given, which it probably, and in my mind it's probably one of those things where LeBron. To me, I think the reason he wasn't there is because LeBron didn't want to play for him. I mean, makes the most sense.
Yeah. All right. So enough about the Cavs. Let's get on to. I think if you're calling the Warriors your heavyweight champion, I think you're looking at the Spurs as the number 1 contender for the crown in the West, and they're led by a guy named Kawhi Leonard, who that cat can ball. I mean, that guy is the real deal. I think, if he doesn't win an MVP in the next 3 years, it's because Curry has now shot 500 3-pointers. I mean, that's where I'm at with it. Like, it seems so unbelievable to me that guy may not. I mean, I can even see next year where even Curry shoots 400 threes, and you see like the same thing that happened to Jordan in the 90s and LeBron in the 2000s, where people are like, no, we need to vote for someone else, and it very much felt that way. And then, because Barkley won it in '93 and Malone won it in '97, I want to say maybe, or '98, and it was just
I don't think he wins because he's not going to put up the offensive numbers. It's just like the, like the MVP in baseball. Like they always will move on to the offensive side of it. And, Kawhi's going to be a guy who's going to average 20, 21, 22, but to me, the MVP is always going to end up going to the guy who averages 28, 29, or if he is averaging 21, 22, he's got like 14, 15 rebounds a game or something like that. So
I think, though, that Kawhi could do it just because I think the analytics movement is strong enough right now that we could see them really make a push for him, and the defensive efficiency numbers, and he does everything, and I could see him going that route. I mean, I'd be stunned if this year he wasn't number 2 in the MVP voting. I really would. I would be absolutely stunned.
you want to bet
that he's not number 2?
Yeah.
Uh,
I think you're
Yeah.
going. I think it's Curry, Westbrook, Durant.
really?
Yeah. I think for sure one of those OKC guys is number 2.
Yeah, I
I don't know
agree.
which one, but I think one of them is number 2.
I think it's gonna be Kawhi. I think we'll discuss an appropriate bet off air, and we'll share it with the Facebook page. But I really do. I think we might see Kawhi as the number 2 guy. So Matt, your thoughts on Kawhi quickly?
Well, real quick on Kawhi, I mean, the thing is, I never thought he would be this player. I don't think anybody really thought he'd be this player. I think defensively we knew what he was going to be. That comes as no surprise. He came in touted as a very good defensive player, but as I'm looking at his stats now, I mean, every year he's gotten better as a scorer. He went from his rookie season 7.9 to 11.9 to 12.8 to 16.5 last year, up to 21.2 points per game. Now led the Spurs in scoring this year. I mean, he's clearly, as the Spurs have been getting older and older, and Tim Duncan getting older, obviously, and Manu and Tony Parker and everybody getting older now. Kawhi is becoming the face of that franchise, as much as I think some people might not want to believe, but he is. And LaMarcus Aldridge, obviously, is another younger guy that's going to help out moving forward. But I love Kawhi's game. I somehow forgot to put him on my list, so he probably should have been higher than this. I couldn't believe I forgot him. But, well, actually, I guess he shouldn't be higher as I look at the rest of this list. So he fits in right where he should.
He's the engine that's going to make the Spurs go.
Yeah.
If he's not their best player, the Spurs, won't even have a chance against Golden State.
Yeah, and I think what I said to start was this is going to be the guy who guards Steph Curry. So this is going to be the guy who's got to step up his game. I mean, I think he would have been higher had you actually voted for him in some capacity, Matt. But either way, I think I do agree with you, Scott. I think, we talk about underrated player. This guy's going to be on there for a long time because, like I said, I don't think he's the guy who's going to get you. He's not leading the league in scoring at any point, but he literally does everything. I mean, he will do everything and anything on the court. Plus, he brings that dominating defense, obviously, with back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year. He's a hell of a player. To me, he's a top 3 guy in the league. Yeah, I don't think he gets quite the respect he probably deserves. So,
and that's why I will be absolutely stunned if he is not number 2.
I just looked at his numbers, and yeah, I may have to put my foot in my mouth. He might end up second, but
he's that good, man. He is. I think he's the second best player in the league right now, and I know.
I think the Defensive Player of the Year really helps him too.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
You see that he does it on both ends of the court. I mean, in any other year, he is the MVP, and I really I don't know. He's again. I think he's going to be your MVP at least once in the next 3 years, and it's a shame that the NBA is going to make maybe Spurs Warriors be something that has to happen in the conference finals every year as opposed to the finals because we are hung up on archaic conferences. All right. Halfway through the list. A little more than halfway through the list. 10, Chris Paul and Klay Thompson. 9, Blake Griffin. 8, Draymond. 7, Kyrie. 6, Kevin Love. 5, Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, although 5 on the list and our highest Spur, I believe we would all be in shot. Like they're the number 2 though, correct? Like I'm not wrong in saying they are,
The second best team,
the
yeah,
second team in this postseason,
without a doubt.
All right, well let's talk 3 and 4. And and let's talk briefly about how we talked about what we wanted this list to be. And I was like, no, it's the players, it's the players. And then Ben, who did I put on my list?
I believe number 5 on your list was Billy
It was
Donovan.
number 5.
Yes. Did you catch the? Hold on, Matt. You're laughing. Did you catch the end of Mavericks Thunder tonight?
Briefly,
Yeah,
but
did
still
Billy Donovan
that's
miss that shot?
No, Billy Donovan didn't miss that shot. But Billy Donovan
Did he pass to the guy who missed the shot?
No, but Billy Donovan with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook on his team, that team scored 84 points tonight. That's inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. That team, it should be better. I'm not saying it's all on Billy Donovan, but Rick Carlisle just coached circles around Billy Donovan tonight.
Yeah, but
And that's why
Rick Carlisle could coach circles around
90%. Yeah.
that Mavericks team is terrible. That Mavericks team is the second.
I mean, they made the playoffs. They're obviously not terrible.
There's the Thunder. The Thunder should have swept that series.
Yeah, probably.
And I think that series goes 6 because Billy Donovan is that bad of a coach.
Okay, Scott, here. What do you think Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook shot tonight? We don't look.
With the loss, I'm going to guess they combined for 28%.
I gotta do math really quick, but
Okay.
Kevin Durant was 7 for 33.
Okay.
Westbrook was 8 for 22.
So 15 for 55. So right in there. Under 30%.
So I don't know how much of that I can blame on Billy Donovan when your two biggest stars are clanking shots all over the floor.
I'm not saying I know the coach in the NBA is not, it's kind of like a manager in the NBA, right? Or in MLB, right? They only matter so much, but I feel like it's one of those things when you have a bad one. When you have a bad one, it's noticeable. And the Thunder, I feel like you're going to see a lot of moments in this postseason where, the thought of Greg Popovich coaching against Billy Donovan in round 2 just makes my on one side, I'm just thrilled as a basketball fan that we're going to get to see, Popovich absolutely just dominate the Thunder mentally with, everything they're going to do. And at the same time, I'm really sad because we're going to, in 15 years, look back at this era for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and we're going to look at the fact that they had 2 of the 7 best players in the NBA at the same time and go, wow, how did they not win a single NBA title?
The rest of their team stinks. That's how.
Well, shame on Sam Presti. Presti's terrible. I mean, he should have never traded. He traded Harden for 50 cents on the dollar. Right, and there was he didn't have to. And
by the way, did you see the E60 thing about that?
About Harden, the trade?
Yeah.
No, tell us about it.
They made it out as if as if he was told, like, yeah, your mom just died, because he was like on the verge of tears talking about how he never wanted to leave. Like, it was the stupidest. Yeah, but it was like the stupidest thing. Like, come on. They had like the sad, sappy ESPN music. Like, I'm surprised they didn't make it into one of those like Make-A-Wish things, and like they let James Harden go hang out with the Thunder again for the day. Like seriously, the way it was framed, like they had his mom in there and like his sister, like, oh, James, he was so heartbroken, and it was like, come on, man, you know how much money he made? Like, it's crazy. Like, get over it.
Well, here's the thing though, like, with how bad the rest of that team is right now, right? Like, they could have just gone to war with Harden, Durant, and Westbrook, and then just filled in the pieces with other bad players.
Literally what they have, like, right. What they have right now.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And you find a way and you make it work, and you draft a couple extra second rounders and you go, yep, those guys are just going to have to play.
The salary cap wasn't obviously salary cap's a concern, but this is your homegrown guy, so you can go over the cap to keep him. So, like, that's what kills me. It's like, this was just your team being cheap, letting him go.
I agree. So, all right. So we've talked enough about Billy Donovan being a bad coach and Sam Presti being, you know, you can't even give Sam Presti like a ton of credit because when he was the GM and they drafted Durant, the pick was made for him, right? Portland takes Odin, so then you have to take Durant. But
Mhm.
what if
If it was the other way around.
right? Would Sam Presti have taken Durant? And I was listening to Simmons' pod today, and he talked about how he strongly believes that the only GM, and I know it sounds homerish, but he thought Ainge was the only GM that strongly was considering Durant number one. And I mean, you go back. I mean, I'm trying to think back to
At
that
the time, I
05,
mean,
06.
at the time, remember, I mean, that's what everybody wanted. Everybody wanted the big guy. Odin seemed like the surefire
They
thing
still
too.
do.
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna go for that power forward / center. Back to the basket, put your big ass into
I
somebody
don't
and
I don't
dominate.
I don't think so much anymore though. I think that era is dead for a little bit. Not for good, just a little bit. I think it's going to be put away in the basement, and in a couple of years you'll see somebody unbox it and be like, "Hey, remember when we used to play basketball like this?" And we will again for a little bit, but I think the space and the the running, I think that's really the future. And right now you have two of the seven best players, and they're at number 3 and 4 on our list, and they are so good at that, and yet they're the third best chance. I don't even know if I'd put them third, and the only reason is I think you have to put Cleveland third because they, for all intents and purposes, should absolutely just run through the Eastern Conference and
Should, in
get
theory.
right in theory, right? Like their path to the finals is easy. And I was listening to the score today and they had the beat reporter for the Thunder on there today, and he said, the Thunder are a very good team, but in order for them to get to the finals, they don't just have to go through one historically good regular season. They have to go through two. Like the Spurs had something like the 12th best regular season ever.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you
And
think
so
if Golden State didn't do, let's just say they weren't even a team this year. I know that's going crazy, but
no, but
but
I
you
know
know
what
what I
you're
mean. Like you look at the Spurs and people will be talking about how unbelievably talented and dominant the Spurs were all year long. So I mean, it is. It's like we've said all along. The West is so unbelievably hard, and it's hard for a team like the Thunder right now, just because it's they're fighting an uphill battle no matter what, because it's going to be tough just to get to the finals if they could get there, and that's a
right.
huge if.
And that's why I think they're number 4. So, you know, what do you, I mean, what do you have Durant and Westbrook? They're 3 and 4. They're the most important. I think, you know, they're the best chance to pull an upset in the West of either the Spurs or the Warriors, just because. I mean, if you think about one of the things I talked about earlier, what's the recipe for an upset? Okay, so Durant goes crazy for one game, Westbrook goes crazy for another game. You get one game that your team just plays solid. All of a sudden, I mean, that's 3 out of 4. It doesn't seem so far fetched, and even in a game where Durant goes crazy, or doesn't mean Westbrook, is bad. He's okay, and then Westbrook goes crazy, and Durant is okay. And I mean, the recipe's there. We have Durant 3. Is there a reason you guys think Durant is higher than Westbrook?
They were literally separated by like a. I actually think me and Matt had the same top 4. I had Durant higher just because I think he's. I don't know. I say overall better game, but then Westbrook had like a million triple doubles this year, so
Yeah.
kind of hard. But I don't know. I think it's just because I still think Kevin Durant is overall the better player than Westbrook. To me, still at this point, long term, if you're asking me who I'd rather build a team with, I'd probably grab Westbrook at this point because he's younger, less injury concerns at this point. But I still think if you're giving me a final shot or a guy that I think is going to come out and give me 45 or 50 points to take over a game, it would be Kevin Durant over Westbrook. I think the scoring side of it is where I gave the edge to Durant.
Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong. I have always thought that of the two, Westbrook's the one that has that killer instinct, and I don't know why. But I feel like if I had to
because
trust,
he's louder.
yeah, right, like that's got to be it.
I guess the way I looked at it was, if I'm down one with the ball, who am I giving it to? Like, or down two or down three, you need a game tying 3-pointer. Who am I giving it to? I'm giving it to Durant over Westbrook just because I think he's got a better shot.
Okay, Matt, Durant, Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ben in that regard. The thing that frustrates me about Westbrook's game is he's the type of player that if he's not hot, he's going to do whatever he can to make himself hot, if that makes sense. Because Westbrook's got no problem chucking up shots. And while he had he had a fantastic year. I mean, he almost averaged a triple-double, 23.5 points, over 10 assists, nearly 8 rebounds a game. I mean, the guy's fantastic, but the thing is, there's something to me that I trust Durant a little more, and I would rather put the ball in his hands on a final shot. I just think because of his size and how he sort of creates a mismatch too with guys that I feel like, I think with Westbrook, if he's the guy who's going to take the last shot and you're the Spurs, you put Kawhi Leonard on him, and I think Leonard, with that length and that wingspan he's got, can sort of get in Westbrook's face and slow him down. While I think Leonard's good enough to slow down Durant, I like Durant's chances more than I like Westbrook in that situation. I mean, two really good players, obviously. I mean, there not a lot of teams can boast two guys that are at that exact level because I think they're both superstars. It's a shame that they don't really have the pieces or the coaching around them.
I'm gonna go back to, I don't see them winning the title this year. It seems really hard to believe that over the course of the next couple of years they're gonna win one, especially when there's already talk of where Durant is gonna go. And
I mean, Westbrook's done or is a free agent, I think, after next year.
I think Durant's a free agent this year and Westbrook in 2 years. And I really do. I think we're gonna, in 2030, we're gonna look back and go, how on earth did the Thunder never win a title? And it's going to be a combination of bad coaching, because Scotty Brooks was bad, and they replaced him with more bad coaching. So I think you got a bad coaching. I think that Sam Presti trade of Harden is going to go down in history as one of the all-time worst, because you're just going to look at what happened because you didn't excuse me, you just didn't keep it together. And then just bad luck, They run into a Miami Heat team that figured it out in their one finals appearance. And then you had the year the Thunder were really good, Westbrook tore his meniscus. You lost a year last year because Durant broke his foot and was never quite right. I mean, just a lot of bad luck there, too. So, too bad for them. All right, number 2 on the list. LeBron James. This would be the spot where I would drop that in if I knew
how to do it.
No, I know how to do it. It's just, I'd have to write down where we're at, and I'd have to re-listen to the whole podcast. And our podcasts are an hour, and not that I don't listen to these. It's just, to listen to them before we get them posted and stuff would just be very difficult, and get those drops in. But anyways, LeBron James kid would be on the list of sound drops for our podcast, and this is a real weird postseason for LeBron. I mean, the expectation here is that they're going to the finals. They're definitely going to the finals. And what if they don't win it again? And LeBron, he's on the 1-year contract, and you got the weird cryptic unfollowing of the Cavs, and it'd be great to play with Melo and blah blah blah. I mean, God, there's a part of me that just wants LeBron to go full heel here.
I'm dying for it.
I think I would root harder for LeBron if he went full heel.
I think I might be LeBron James' number 1 fan. I think I might be.
If he did it, or right now already?
No, right now I think I am. I if I'm not number 1, I'm at least top 3 for sure.
Could you just imagine? I mean,
I mean, I love this whole 0 dark 30, which doesn't make any sense because he's number 23, so I don't really understand why he's just at 0 dark 23. But whatever.
It doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah, I mean, him just going all black on Instagram and Twitter and all that now is just, I love it, and it's part of it's because it drives everybody else absolutely crazy. Like, I love listening to people talk about how much they hate LeBron, and then I'm just like, yeah, I like him. I think he's awesome. And then they're just like, how the hell do you like him? He's worst. He's the worst person ever. I'm like, no, he's actually pretty good. And all they ever hang
great basketball player.
And all they ever hang their hat on is because he did that the announcement where like he raised
the decision.
where he raised millions of dollars for charity and stuff like that. God, what an asshole he is. But
I think in retrospect he regrets doing that fully.
If he ever comes out and says that, I would hate LeBron. I think he has. If I was him, I
has already.
Yeah, I think he said he regretted it.
If I was him, I would double down on it for sure.
Decision part 2.
Yeah,
I would have in the chair, taken his talents to. Where does he take his talents? I mean, it has to be New York, right?
I think LeBron should have a press conference where he tells Jim Gray what to say, and then Jim Gray announces it. And then, like, when they're asked a question, Jim Gray would be like, Mr. James, they want to know what you were thinking in the third quarter there. And then he's like, well, Jim, you could tell the media this. And then Jim Gray has to say, I think that would be hysterical.
Like, he needs to make it like a wrestling thing.
Yes.
Where he's like, you know what? You know what you should do? You should go tell David Blatt that I'm LeBron, and I can go out there and do whatever I want.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just picturing LeBron like full on, like when Hulk Hogan turned heel for the first time, and
he's got the red and black NWO.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we digress on LeBron. But yeah, obviously, I think we all think the Cavs are coming out of the East. I think he's the best player on the Cavs, and he's still right up there in the conversation, at least as far as the best player in the league. To me, for all the people who keep saying, "Oh, he's going to lose a step," well, I think if there's ever a team that made it clear that all they care about is postseason play, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, don't we remember last year when LeBron James took like a 2-week vacation in the middle of the season?
That was this year, wasn't it? Did he go down to Miami this year?
He might have done it again this year, but he definitely did it last year, for sure, because that was the first year. So like he took his siesta in the middle of the season.
Love it.
He made it again, just an all-time thing to do. That's just awesome. But now they're here for the playoffs, and I think he's the guy that he will take it up to the next level as we move along. So,
hey, how do you think the best fans in baseball would react to LeBron James?
Oh God,
the best.
Twitter would break down. Like it would be over with. Could you imagine? Like I'm with Ben. I love like this LeBron. I'm a LeBron fan. I love watching him play. I still think he's the best player in the game.
How much does he hate Dan Gilbert, Matt?
Probably a lot. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious. Would it honestly surprise you if he left after this year, regardless of what they do? I mean, I think if they win one, he'll probably stay. But I mean, if he left, I think it would be awesome. I really do. LeBron moving around is cool for the game. I think the game needs a heel. Sports needs like a bad guy. He's a bad guy. I don't like saying bad guy. I'm putting bad guy in quotes
he's a heel.
here. But
he's a heel.
Yeah, he's a heel, and sports need that. You need somebody to root against because everybody loves Steph. I mean, find me somebody that hates Steph Curry.
I'll find him for you.
I mean, I'm sure there's people out there, but they're not on the vocal level of people who absolutely hate LeBron. And I'm with Ben. I love it when people are like, "Oh, I hate LeBron." I'm like, "Oh no, I like him." What do you mean you like him? I'm like, what's not to like? If your favorite player growing up was Michael Jordan, and I know that they're not the same style of player, but guess what? People fucking hated Michael Jordan too. So
here's the thing that I hated about LeBron. I hated that he went to Miami more than anything. I could care less that he.
Yeah, what an asshole! He wanted to go win championships.
No,
what a jerk! He should have lived in Cleveland forever.
Listen, I don't disagree with the decision, I thought there were better places for him to go.
Where?
In terms of
He
like
went to
the best.
4 NBA finals.
No. I mean it in like the basketball purest sense, right?
No,
Like,
you're bitter because he didn't come to Chicago.
no, I actually wanted him. I thought New York would have been a lot of fun.
Oh God, come on.
I really do. I think New York would have been a lot of fun. I really thought Cleveland. He should have stayed in Cleveland maybe, and tried to win a title for them. But God hates Cleveland like a lot.
That's
I
why I
think.
want him. That's why I want him to leave Cleveland again. Just take another big old dump on the city of Cleveland.
Can he do it during the Republican National Convention? Like as Donald Trump's followers are all pissy because they've stolen the nomination for Trump and he's rallying his troops to go out there and do that. I want LeBron to like go on the stage at the Cleveland at the RNC and go, all right, I've made my choice.
to Golden State.
I'm taking my talents to Golden State. I'm taking my talents to San Antonio. I'm taking my talents to New York, whatever. And then it just doubles up, and it's all on display in Cleveland, and it just it just sounds amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
And then LeBron says like, "I want to make the NBA great again."
Oh, Matthew, that is awesome. That is brilliant.
Like he just pulls out the very shittily made hat
Yeah.
and puts it on his head and just says, "I want to make the NBA great again."
So
and then
let's
just walks off.
All right, so now that we've really talked about the legend of LeBron James and everything that goes into it, I'm really curious if he kind of sees that this is going south. Can LeBron James, will he pull like what he pulled in the finals against San Antonio 2 years ago, where he just was like, "Yeah, I'm out, guys," and he just, it really felt like he was kind of done. And that's why he's number 2 on this list in terms of most important player. He's the only player that matters on Cleveland ultimately. Like Love and Irving matter, but even without them, I think LeBron James, if he wants, can drag the Cavs kicking and screaming to the finals. And I think he's the only player on this list that can drag his team.
That can do it without anybody else.
Without anybody else, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt, and we're going to get into number 1 with Steph Curry, and there's no doubt, like, if Steph Curry is injured for any length of time, I don't think they can beat the Spurs at all. But, like, LeBron James ultimately gives you every chance in the world to win the championship. Right? Like, as long as you have that guy, you have at least, a chance. Whereas for Golden State, without Curry, there's still shooters on that team. They're still well coached. But without LeBron James, Cleveland, look what Cleveland was before LeBron. And they had won, 16 games?
Yeah, the number 1 pick.
Yeah. Just bad. Lots of bad there. So go LeBron. Shit on Cleveland, please. That'd be awesome. The Winded City podcast would love it if you would go ahead and do that. Oh, we would just dedicate a whole show to that, right?
Yeah.
I think we would change the name of our podcast to make the NBA great again.
For one night.
Or forever.
Yeah, maybe forever. LeBron, we'd have to see his platform and stuff and all that stuff. All right, number 1, Steph Curry. And this is in full effect tonight because Steph Curry did not play. Or tonight, we're recording this on a Monday, releasing this Wednesday. But you got Steph Curry, and he's out. And the Warriors are playing just fine, and you could do that against a really terrible Warriors or Rockets team. But if that ankle's not right, that that really puts a dent in the Golden State title chances.
Yeah, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on this because I think we all understand the impact that Steph Curry has.
402 threes. Ooh.
Yeah. He made more threes now than a lot of teams made in the 2000s and 90s combined. So
yeah, I saw somewhere he made more threes in the last 2 years than Larry Bird in his entire career.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
That's crazy.
He moved up from, what did I see? I think he moved from number 51 to number 19.
Yeah,
this
in 1
season
year.
in career 3-pointers made.
That's unbelievable. He is the greatest shooter of all time.
Yeah, and it's not even close, really, to be completely honest with you. I think most would consider Ray Allen, if he's not the best, right up there. And Steph Curry's miles ahead of Ray
Oh
Allen.
yeah. In so many
Ah,
ways, because I'd say from a pure shooter standpoint, Steph Curry's just his shot is so damn gorgeous. Like the fact that Steph can pop it from 40, like it's
yeah,
nothing.
that's the
With a,
difference
with a
between him
hand,
and
with his
Ray
hand
Allen.
in his face, like
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
Although
It's
I will
crazy.
always have mad respect for Ray Allen for hitting, I think, the most difficult pressure cooker three of all time.
Oh, in the finals.
The finals against the Spurs. I mean,
Mm.
the Spurs had the title was won there. The Spurs had the title won, and then Ray Allen
That
just
forced a game 7, right?
yeah, it did, and it was. I mean that three will go down in history for me at least as maybe the greatest clutch shot of all time. Um, but yeah, Steph Curry. The good thing for the Warriors and why the number part of why they ended up going they got to 73-9 was the Rockets would they finish 65-17 maybe something like that maybe even better than that if I'm not mistaken but
talking about the Spurs.
yeah the Spurs sorry. Um, they had a great record. So it's not as though the Warriors were able to take any real time off in the season. 67-15. So they finished six better than the Spurs. That number one seed's really important because you look at this playoff, right? I mean, I think we're all in agreement. If you're the number one seed, you would rather go if you're Golden State, Houston, LA, Portland than what San Antonio is gonna have to go through, which is uh, Memphis, which talk about an overachieving team, and then Oklahoma City. It looks like if Billy Donovan can stay out of his team's way. Um, yeah, I got that in there. I mean, that's really when you look at that. I mean, even if Curry's husband is, even if Curry his ankle is bad, it's they have an easy path to the finals or to the Western Finals at least. Agreed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they should be all right. I
yeah,
mean,
they really should.
Does the
And
NBA still do the reseeding after the rounds or no?
no, they don't reseed.
Okay.
So it's going to be. Uh, I mean, so looking at how this all breaks down here, I mean, it seems so hard that we're not just going to have chalk here in the first round. And that's why I really think the NBA has the commissioner that's willing to try stuff, and I would really love to see him just go, listen, conferences are gone, top 16 make the playoffs. But I mean, looking at the East, Cleveland over Detroit should happen. Toronto, they're now 1-1 with Indiana. So Toronto should move on. Miami should beat Charlotte, and the Atlanta-Boston series is in question. I mean, those were two teams that finished, 40, and I mean Miami, Charlotte, they both finished 40 and 34 as well. But you would think, you've got essentially chalk in the East going to the second round. You both would agree with that? Yes.
yeah.
I think you have chalk on both sides.
Right. And then that's where it gets interesting. Your top eight, right? I mean, Cleveland will beat Atlanta or Boston. Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
Miami should be a hell of a series.
Mm-hmm.
If that's it, right? And I think both of those teams can give Cleveland a fair series. Toronto only was one game worse, but man, if you're the NBA right now, how much are you dreading a Golden State Toronto or a San Antonio Toronto NBA final? Where
Yeah,
does
I
that
think anything with Toronto is bad.
right? Like if you're looking at this, you're going, oh. I mean, at least
I
the
mean,
NBA.
really, anything outside of Cleveland in the East, I don't think. I think anybody outside of Cleveland in the East, assuming it's Golden State or San Antonio, it's a sweep. And I think you could argue that it might be a sweep anyway. But
Mhm.
Yeah, oh man.
I mean, the NBA's really got to be praying that Cleveland holds strong and makes it to the finals.
right? You could at least be like, yes, we got something here.
Yeah,
Like
because
Cleveland, San Antonio is good. Golden State, Cleveland's good. I think Cleveland, Oklahoma City would still be good.
Cleveland, Oklahoma City, I think would be a
but
real
yeah,
fun
but
series.
if you're looking at like Toronto, Golden State, I mean, what's the star power on Toronto? I mean, what's the star power
I
on
mean, they've got
Miami, really?
I
And
mean,
and,
anybody.
and, and yeah,
Literally anybody in the East.
yeah, because nobody has LeBron, and it's a disappointment if you don't get to see LeBron.
It's not even nobody has a LeBron though. I mean, no, there's not
Nobody
even
has a superstar.
there's nothing. I mean, you look at our top 10, and I'm going to go through it real quick. Chris Paul and Klay Thompson at 10, Western Conference. Blake Griffin, number 9, Western Conference. Draymond Green, number 8, Western Conference. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Eastern Conference, but on Cleveland. Kawhi Leonard, 5, Western Conference. Russell Westbrook, 4, Western Conference. Durant, number 3, Western Conference. LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers, Eastern Conference at number 2. And then Steph Curry at number 1, Western Conference. We don't have a single Eastern Conference player on this list that's not from Cleveland.
Well, part of it, like I said, was when I was looking at it, is I literally looked at the teams that I thought I had that I think stood a chance to win a title. I mean, if you're going to go by like top 10 best players, then yeah, I think James Harden makes the list. I think you can make an argument for Andre Drummond, even though he can't hit a free throw either. But that's it. I mean, just look at that East, and I mean, I guess you can say the same thing really for. I mean, but even like Portland, we never talked about Portland. They have Damian Lillard. They have a star player. There's nothing on those other Eastern Conference teams. I mean,
No.
Paul George, good player. I mean, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan are really good players, but I mean, those aren't guys that I'm going to be like, oh yeah, they're competing for MVPs and all kinds of other stuff. I mean, there's just nothing there.
Yeah, it's not there, and and as far as the NBA, I'm really curious to know what some of these leagues, how much they care about that finals matchup. Because to go a little off track here, the NHL has a very a precarious situation brewing right now. Right, the Final Four in the Western Conference right now is if you're just going on who's ahead, is you have Dallas, who tonight had a chance to go up 3-0. I don't know if they did it, but you're talking Dallas, St. Louis, and then you're talking no, the Wild won tonight, so you got that. But you got Dallas, St. Louis, and potentially San Jose, Nashville. I mean, God, could you even imagine a Nashville, St. Louis Western final? And then in the East, Washington is your big story. Pittsburgh, New York is good, but just imagine if like the Panthers make it out of the West or out of the East, and all of a sudden you got a Florida Panthers versus Nashville Predator final.
There was a really bad. Who did the Panthers play?
Tampa Bay or New York Islanders.
Yeah, that was a crappy one. And then and then the Hurricanes beat somebody too. I forget who the Hurricanes beat.
Oh wait, you mean the Panthers in the final? The Panthers lost to the Avalanche in '96.
Okay.
And that was the Avs' first Stanley Cup. And then the Hurricanes beat Edmonton in 7 the year after.
That was a bad one.
You know what was great about that one though? Was you had what's his name? Rob Brindamore, the captain, absolutely blow off Gary Bettman the year after the lockout when he's getting the cup. I recommend everybody go watch that movie. But that's a conversation for another day. And we'll probably do some more NHL talk as we go here. But but I think we have a consensus top 5. I think the only place there might be some argument is 2-3 if it's San Antonio, Cleveland, or Cleveland, San Antonio. And the only reason you might put Cleveland ahead of San Antonio for the title
is if they'll actually be there.
They're going to be in the final. And everybody else is kind of maybe, maybe not, right? Like Cleveland, they don't have the best chance to win because I don't think Cleveland can beat Golden State or San Antonio. But if you're going up by who's going to get there, Cleveland will be there. I know that. And that's why Golden State's 1, Cleveland, San Antonio, that's 2A, 2B. Maybe we go right there with that. And then 4 would be the Thunder and 5 the Clippers.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, closing thoughts on the NBA playoffs. And this could be in general. Matt?
Get me to Golden State versus San Antonio.
Very good. Ben?
Yeah, Final Four is where it starts for me, unfortunately. So
yeah, as good as basketball can be, I'm just looking at this right now and I'm going, the Final Four is where it's at, and you just hope beyond hope that your Final Four is the Final Four you expect it to be, and by that I mean Golden State, San Antonio, Cleveland. God, I'm looking at the standings here.
I think at that point you'd want Miami. I mean, a Cleveland Miami series would be a good storyline.
Yeah, I agree. That, Miami upsets Toronto. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I think in terms of who the league wants to see, it's Miami. But in terms of good basketball, I think it's Toronto.
I agree.
I think Toronto maybe has a more competitive series, but they just don't have the name value, and everybody. I think the casual fan will look at that and go, "Wait, Toronto, like in Canada." And
Is Vince Carter back?
yeah, so
Tracy
there you go.
McGrady?
Yes, all of them. They're gonna bring David Stoudemire and the old purple Raptor, cartoon Raptor jerseys out.
Those were awesome, by the
They
way.
were the best. All right, so there you have it. The NBA playoffs. They're here, and it looks to be a snoozer for the next couple of weeks. But the Final Four could be one of the best. We could have one of the best series of all time, and I know I'm really looking forward to Golden State San Antonio for, hopefully 7. I mean, God, it would just be
That'd
great.
be fun.
That would be fun. So, and in all of this, one thing we didn't discuss was you have Golden State really chasing history. They have a chance to really etch themselves in as the best team ever. And if they go 16-3, I think they do it. I think 16-3 is the number for them to really be able to say, yep, that wasn't a fluke. And they sweep here, they sweep LA or Portland, and then you lose maybe 1 or 2 to San Antonio and 1 in the final, and I think that's it, 16-3. So, all right, for Ben Russo and Matt Urich, thank you for listening. We'll have some more stuff up on the WordPress blog this week for sure. Be sure to check out Matt's stuff on Bleacher Report. He posted his top 100 players for the Chicago Bears draft board, as well as the 9. He mock draft for the Bears and their 9 picks. So check that out over there. And we are now, if you go into the Google Play Store, you search for us, you can find us on your Android device through that store now. So we'll have some information about that on the Facebook page. Have a great rest of the weekend. Thanks for listening.